Well, Coach, after the game, you talked about the need to clean up penalties and take care of the football. But now that you've watched the film, what's your takeaway from Saturday, and what's your challenge to the team this week?
Yeah, so still feel a lot the same. Comes down to a couple plays. So we had 2 turnovers. They had 2 turnovers. When we got them to turn it over, we didn't score any points on it. When we turned it over, they scored 6. So that was a major difference. And then when you look at the penalties, we doubled our penalties from the previous game we played. So we had 13 penalties in the game. So, and 3 of them were what I call stupid penalties after the play type stuff. So we definitely have to control that. We have to limit that. We got to coach it better. We got to demand it better. We got to practice that better. All those things have to happen. The challenge to us is we got 24 hours less of preparation time in all phases of everything. And we got to get on that field, and we got to shake off the last game, and we got to work. We just got to work. That's what Bulldog football is. It's all about working hard and then showing up on game day. That's what we are. So that's what we're going to do.
And when it comes to trying to eliminate those kinds of penalties, the unnecessary ones that are, from celebration or taunting or whatever, how do you do that? And is it any different from the way your coaches had to do it with your generation?
Yeah, it's about critiquing and demanding. So you critique in the film room. We watched it all yesterday as a team. You critique it, and sometimes those are tough conversations, but ones you have to have. I've been in those similar situations when I was a player too. So it's just over time, critiquing never gets eliminated or is a step you can overstep. So we're going to keep on critiquing like crazy, and then demanding when you get on the practice field is when you have to demand perfection and at least attempting to get perfection. So we'll continue to keep doing that, and hopefully we see better results from that side of things.
And what impressed you the most about the way Nevada beat previously 4-1 Oregon State team?
Yeah, so Nevada's playing very, very hard. I think the main thing about them is they're playing together as a team. You can tell they're getting coached up very, very well. They're listening to that team mentality approach. They're on offense. They're running the ball like crazy. They had a big old day, a lot of explosive plays. They controlled the clock that way. Did a good job with that. And then on defense, they're a team that plays hard. Like they're gang tackling, they're flying around. That's what you in coverage. They're more of a zone coverage type team, but then they mix in some man stuff at the proper and perfect times. So it kind of keeps you off balance a little bit. But we're gonna have our hands full. I mean, every game's gonna be that way from here on out. So we have to be ready to go play ball.
How's it going, Coach?
All right.
No, for sure. The defense played ball. Great defense. They balled out. I mean, limited the number 10th ranked offense in the country. There was no offensive touchdowns in the second half. So the defense did its thing, though. But the offense, 2 costly interceptions, especially the pick to the house and everything. In some of these big games with Michigan and Washington State where you guys had a chance, the defense has showed out, but the offense has struggled. Going forward now that we're reaching midseason, are there going to be any quarterback personnel changes, any additions to the offensive playbook going forward to where you guys could hang in there with the bigger teams?
It's kind of a question I have a couple of answers for. So I'll say this. As far as us as a team, we have to be all on the same page at the same time. So there's times we've been playing really good offense, and then there's times the defense wasn't necessarily there. There's times when it's the other way around, right? Then there's times you've seen us playing really well. That's when we're all playing good Bulldog football at the same time. So our challenge is to get that more consistent for a longer amount of time, is playing Bulldog football in all 3 phases: offense, defense, kicking game. You know what I'm saying? And then when you look at the games, to me, each game has its own life, its own history. It's its own deal. We're playing different schemes. You have different things you have to do. So we'll continue to keep on game planning for everybody that we play. And we're going to do whatever we need to do that we think is going to be successful for what the opponent's doing. So we'll continue to do that stuff. Personnel stuff, you're always going to go through personnel changes and things like that. Through injuries starts it all, and then off of who we're playing to know what we need to do. We're going to just continue to keep on coaching. We'll keep tweaking things as we go, and then hopefully they start to work a little better in our favor than it has the last couple games.
For sure. And to build off what he was saying, Nevada upset Oregon State, and with that, a lot of people would say, hey, on paper, the Bulldogs easily got this one in the bag, concerning how, Nevada was going into this season. What has stood out to you about the Wolfpack that you're really going to have to keep a keen on to get a victory on Saturday?
Like I was saying earlier, they play very, very hard. I mean, very, very hard. And I think when you watch college football, the good teams play as a team, and you're seeing that from these guys. They are playing together as a team. They're celebrating when they have success. They played a lot of emotion, and they're just playing together. I mean, that's the bottom line. They're playing together. You don't see a lot of critical mistakes. They're sticking together. They're playing hard. Their coaching staff's done a good job with those guys, getting them to believe and drinking the Kool-Aid that they're preaching, and you're seeing it on film. So, like I said earlier, we're gonna have our hands full, and we have to be ready to play.
Obviously, the Cougar game, not the outcome you wanted, though, but there is some positive takeaways from you. What were some of the positives that you saw in that game that you would like to translate into the Nevada game?
Yeah, there's definitely some good positives. I mean, like 85 to 90% of the game was good, It's that 10% there that kind of creeped up on us, though. But I liked how our defense played really, really hard. In the beginning, we gave up some points there in the beginning of the game. We wish we could have those series back, but we tightened up really well. The guys kept believing, kept playing hard, and we got better and better as that game went against a very, very good offense. I mean, a very, very good offense. So we were able to slow them down. I bet when they snapped the ball, it was a lot slower than it was in previous games. So we've seen that play clock in the 30s, and it wasn't like that way in our game. So that was a lot of stuff to really build off of. On offense, we started running the ball a lot more effectively. There were some holes in here, and I thought the backs got downhill and did a good job. We were throwing it pretty well, too, till the very end. We were finding we had some big plays happening in the pass game. So it's just a couple of plays that leave a bad taste in your mouth and leave us on the lower end of the scoreboard. So we'll keep building off the positive stuff and be ready to go.
Hey, Coach, we didn't hear from Mikey after the game. How is he taking the loss inside the locker room and with you?
Mikey's played a lot of ball, a lot of ball. And as a football player, and I remember these days, you have good games, you have bad games. The good ones are obviously a lot better than the bad ones. So the good thing at his age, he needs to shake it off and move on. That's the bottom line. I just talked to him this morning. He's in good spirits, ready to roll. It's not like he played a complete bad game. He had a couple of bad plays, and unfortunately, it directly impacted the outcome of the game. So he'll keep on doing this thing, keep preparing, and we have to be ready to go.
It's now 8 interceptions for him through 6 games. When you look at the tape and the one Saturday coming from a clean pocket, what do you kind of point to as ways to improve and eliminate those mistakes?
Yeah, definitely. And, if you watch all of them, there's always these different circumstances on it, right? Because a lot of times he's getting hit as he's throwing or he's hit previous plays there, In the game we just played the other day, one of them, defensive player, stepped in front of a receiver, made a great break on the ball. It was a good job by him. And then, as Mikey would even tell you, the other one, he didn't see the rolled up corner. He threw it right over there. So just a bad read there, and he's a little late with the ball. So we just got to keep practicing, keep putting the guys in different situations and things like that, keep mixing coverages up on them, showing things that maybe necessarily wasn't on film but could happen on game day, just keeping his mind constantly thinking, and we'll be all right. He'll be fine. He's played a lot of ball. He's an experienced quarterback.
Coach, how does preparation change? I know you say you want to give more options to Mikey in practice to kind of let him see things that he may not typically see in a game, but to kind of limit these mistakes moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. And so we're in a short week this week, so we're going to 24 hours less than we usually would have. So we're going to try to keep Tuesdays and Wednesdays for this week pretty much the same, but then once we get to Thursday and Friday are going to be a little bit different there. And then we always have segments in practice where we go offense versus defense, and anything can happen. It's not game plan type plays. So things like that I think are really good, so it gets you ready for the unexpected type of stuff. And then obviously we're going to also do scouted stuff that we normally do too. So we'll continue to do things like that. You also have to know we're about to go past the midpoint in the season, so you can't just wear out the bodies and do all of these things. Like, we have some guys with bumps and bruises with a short week too. So you just have to be really creative in what you're doing. You have to kind of play the game in the film room also. There's ways to stimulate the mind when you're in the film room also. So we'll do those type of things too to get ready for this game.
When it comes to a game like Saturday with Mikey throwing that first interception, how does he kind of mentally move on from that and get ready for the next play and then kind of bounce back after the pick six there late in the fourth? Short-term
memory, you have to, especially at that position. That's the most stressful position on the whole entire field. He has to see it all and things like that. But any time for anybody, I don't care if you're a running back and you fumble the ball, you're an offensive tackle and you get beat and give up a sack, you're a DB, you get beat, whatever, you miss a tackle as a linebacker, you miss a sack as a D lineman, whatever it is in football, you have to move on. Okay, because the game is not one play. The game's going to be 70, 80, 90 plays, depending on the style of the game. So you have to move on. You have to. And you preach that all the time. I think coaches hold on to it a little longer than the players do because you don't have time to hold on to it.
How can you analyze the defensive performance, especially coming off that UNLV game, bouncing back and having such a good performance this past Saturday?
Definitely. It was very good offense we were playing. Like I said earlier, we wish we could get the first 2 drives back. Just some things that we control that we let happen. But definitely bounced back, did a great job against those guys. We kept them out of the end zone. We slowed down their pace. We didn't give up the explosive plays that they've had. We tackled the quarterback well. If you watched them previous, the quarterback's running all over the field. So we did a good job of that, and we kept them under 300 yards. So it was a good day that way. Wish we could have got the first 2 series back, but it is what it is. The guys kept responding, kept fighting, kept playing Bulldog football.
Coach, could you share the status of Malik Sherrod with us?
Okay, so I'll give you some injury stuff right now. Glad you asked that. So Malik tweaked his ankle again in the UNLV game. Went higher up now, so he's more going to be week to week. It's not going to be just a day or 2 type thing. So I don't know when we'll get him back. It's like when you get to the end of the week, you see how he's feeling. I could see it being a couple of weeks, and then we'll see where it's at from there. Mordecai Hines, we also lost him in the UNLV game, so he had surgery. He's in the long term. He'll be out for the season. And then just in his last game, Josiah Freeman, we lost him now too. So he's got a foot injury, so he'll be out long term also. So some injuries right there stacking up a little bit, but that's football. That's life. That's the way it is. So you keep on working.
Without Malik, you still got a 100-yard rushing day from Elijah. Could you share? It seemed like you guys established the run by getting the pass going first in this one.
Definitely. When we formation some things to try to help get some air inside in the box, and it worked to our advantage pretty good. We have good backs here. I mean, we do. We always have traditionally. So those guys did a good job of getting downhill and getting vertical and getting the yards that they needed to get. So that was really good. And we'll have to constantly keep on just formationing and looking at the defense and seeing ways we can get air in the run game and just keep on playing. So I like where we are. I think we can build off of from the last game, and we'll keep on moving forward with that.
You've been a part of a lot of Fresno State versus Nevada games, and this is the last trip to Reno on the books for now with conference realignment. Can you share some of your history in this series and why this game is important for both programs?
Oh, yeah. We've been battling. You can go all the way back to the Kaepernick days and Chris Ault, all that stuff. I mean, they've had some really, really good teams. And like I said earlier, they're drinking the Kool-Aid now, so we're playing against another good team. But when you go over there, you never know how the weather's going to be. That's kind of the main thing that's in my head. It could be really cold. It could be windy. That wind up there is no joke, So, and it just seems this way, but it always seems like it's a late kickoff when you go over there. So it's always a little windy. It always seems like it's midnight, and you got to go out there and you have to go play. So I've enjoyed playing them as a player, enjoyed as coaching against them, and hopefully this Friday we'll have another good day.
Coach, kind of an uncharacteristic day from Dylan Lynch as far as the kicking position with a couple misses. How do you build his confidence back? I know he's had a good year up to this point, but how do you build his confidence after a performance like that?
Keep kicking. When he's name's called, you got to go. You got to make it. He's a strong-willed dude. If you ever talk to him, you talk about short-term memory. He moves on really, really quickly. Another experienced kid kicking and playing, doing what he does. So he'll be fine. You just keep on kicking. You keep on working. You keep pounding. You keep on going. There's no reason to hang on adversity and all that type of stuff. He had a bad day with the 2 kicks, so we keep going.
A little chill in the air this Friday. I think I saw 45 as a kickoff temp. Anything change in the style of the way a game goes when it's a little chillier, a little up in the mountains like that?
It just gets a little funner. I mean, that's football. It's fun when it gets a little cooler out there. I think it's one of those things that the team knows is going to be cooler. It's that time of the year. It's what it is. So we'll go play. We're not going to be here in Fresno in the heat. We're going to be over there in Reno with a little cooler temperatures. But I don't see it. It's not freezing or anything like that. I mean, it's just going to be cooler. So got to go play.
And then lastly, you mentioned halfway point, evaluating everything at the halfway point. You in your interim year here, how would you evaluate how you've handled the coaching gig so far through 6 games and what you've kind of learned through 6 games this year?
Yeah, I mean, every day is kind of different. I think the biggest change for me as far as this position is just how much is away from football that I have to deal with. So always trying to deal with that stuff. But I have a pretty set schedule that helps out. We have a veteran staff that helps out also. I mean, they've been huge. They've been great. We just keep on rolling through it. Main thing is just I like winning. So I like winning a lot more than I thought, so we got to get back on track, and we got to get that done however that goes. So just keep on grinding. Thank you.
Morning.
Coach, defensive performance against Washington, it seemed like they got stronger towards the tail end of the game. How would you evaluate how the guys did there?
Overall, I thought we gave them some chances early on in the game that I'm disappointed about. We had some third downs, some third and longs that we missed the sack on the first one. He scrambled around, got out, and continued to drive. Then we had a third and long in the red zone, and we had what I think was kind of a questionable pass interference call, but there was a mistake there, which kept the drive going, and instead of giving up a field goal, we gave up a touchdown. And then the next series as well, we had another third and long situation where we had a mistake and kept the drive going. So early in the game, it was more about what we weren't doing correctly, and as a coach, you're disappointed in that. But I thought our guys settled down, and I thought we dominated the second half and played like we're capable of playing. So that was a positive, and that was a good offensive team. We knew that going in, but yet we played solid overall, but we could have played better, and that's something that we have to do as we move forward.
You stopped them on a couple 2-point conversion plays, and those really kind of kept them in the game, Fresno State in the game. What goes into practicing those 2-point conversion defenses and how you frustrated Washington State there?
Well, the first one was, it was our field goal, or what we call our regulators, which is really a special team. And we work a lot on that. Coach Baxter does a great job with running those type of plays at us in practice, and we do a good job of having to defend them. And R.L. Miller, who was in a new position for that game, came up with a big play on the first one. And it was actually ironic because on Thursday's practice, we had to repeat some plays because he was new at the spot. And we got him right, and he did a good job and made a big play. The second one, you always have your 2-point play defenses in mind as you study a team. Sometimes you haven't seen them run 2-point plays, but you try to, think about where they've been on the field down in that tight red zone area that they might try to execute a play that they've shown before. So we had a good call, and our guys covered them up really well and didn't let the quarterback out and got him on the ground to make the play. So that's positive, but hopefully, we're not in a situation with having to make a bunch of plays on 2-point plays.
Have you ever seen a pick like Dean Clark's in your life?
I tell you what, that was probably one of the most acrobatic interceptions I think I've ever seen. It's funny because I was giving him flack during the week. He dropped a couple of interceptions in practice, and we kind of joked back and forth some, but in the meeting room I was giving him grief in front of the other guys, and they were all kind of giving him some flack. And then he comes up with that play, which was an outstanding play. So I saw him after the game, and as upset as I was after the game, he was sitting with Cameron Braca, and I walked over and I said, well, after last week with all the ones you dropped, you had to go out there and make a spectacular one to make up for it. And he kind of smiled a little bit, but yeah, that was a great play, a big play in the game too for us to get out of a jam, and I don't know how he held on to it, but he did.
Coach Jakari Embry had a big role in this one as well.
Yep.
Could you share the process of implementing him in this game?
Well, Jakari, is a talented guy. We've been looking for opportunities, and we have some veteran corners that are ahead of him, but yet. When the situation at nickel had presented itself, After Braca went down, we started to work him in practice, and I got to say he did an outstanding job throughout the week preparing. He didn't play perfect. He'll be the first to tell you that, but he competed hard. He gave us some good quality snaps, and he's going to play a more vital role in the defense as we move forward. But it's not easy to get ready in 1 week's time, and he spent a lot of extra time on the bye week, over the weekend, studying, just getting ready. And I'm proud of him for what he contributed. But he knows there's a lot of little details that we've got to clean up to play at the level I know he can play at.
And Coach Skip just shared Mordecai Hines likely out for the year. Can you share some of the bright spots and his ceiling moving forward?
Mordecai?
Yeah.
Oh, I think Mordecai kind of, when his opportunity presented itself, showed a athletic, prototypical defensive end in terms of size and length and his ability to affect the passer. He's just going to get better and better, and as he grows and gets stronger and matures. So I think he's got a great future for us.
Hey, Coach, what are some of the challenges that this Nevada offense presents?
Well, this team, I think they're currently 17th in the nation in rushing defense, rushing offense, excuse me. They really combine some conventional runs. They've got a very good tailback, multiple tailbacks. There's the whole skill group. A lot of them have transferred in, and they're really playing well. But they present quarterback runs. Seems like we've seen more quarterback runners this year than any year that I can recall. But they present a lot of different variations of option game and power game with the quarterback as a runner, and also the tailback as a conventional runner. So this team wants to run the ball, wants to control the clock, like Coach Skipper said, and we can't allow them to do that. They're 55% on third down conversions. They're third in the nation in third downs. So they get it into manageable third downs because they're running it so effectively. So we're going to have to do some things to try to slow them down on first and second down and try to make them have to throw the football on third down. This is a very, very big challenge for our defense to slow this run game down.
Coach, Phoenix Jackson had 2 sacks on that one drive. Can you speak to what you're seeing behind the scenes that helps him be in the position to make those plays?
Well, Phoenix is an exceptional athlete. He's got very, very good speed. He made a real good play on the first one, running the quarterback down as he broke the pocket and kind of scrambling out towards our bench. The second one, we had a pressure coming off the edge, and we've seen other guys come on pressures against that guy, and he's outrun them. But Phoenix just redirected and made a great play, and I really felt at that point the momentum was on our side, and that was a couple of really big plays for us defensively. But, he also made the play on the reverse. I don't know if you noticed that, but the guy had hit the chute there on the reverse, and Phoenix came out of nowhere and ran him down. So he's capable of making those type of plays as an athlete, and he can really cover ground sideline to sideline, and we're going to need that against this type of team that runs the ball on the perimeter quite a bit.
Hi there. On the defensive line, Corey Foreman and Jacob Holmes, this was their first official start against the Cougars. They had themselves a good game. Corey Foreman, forced a fumble, and, he's ranked in the FBS in forced fumbles, and Jacob Holmes had himself a great day with 2 sacks and 4 tackles for loss, I think it was. How big was it for them to have a good stand-up performance the way they did coming in as official starters?
Well, yeah, they both made, good contributions to the defense. They both made not questionable, unacceptable penalties during the game too. I'll add. I just got to be honest with you about that. That's not our style, and we don't want to see that. But they're talented guys, and they got to keep on playing and improving. This was the type of game where we felt, with this type of quarterback, we needed our best athletes on the field, and those are a couple of the guys on the defensive line that can play in space some, especially Corey, and Jacob has some real good pass rush ability. So. We like some of the things that they did, but again, like everybody else on the defense, there's things we can do better and have to.
No, and with that, Corey Foreman was a highly touted recruit going into USC, and highly touted, recognizable transfer and everything else. With his performances of lately, will he be a starter going forward along with Jacob Holmes?
We haven't sat down and talked about this upcoming opponent as a staff yet. We'll look at our bodies that are healthy and ready to go, and then develop the game plan as we move forward. Some weeks, certain players may play a bigger role, but I anticipate both of them will be playing quite a bit here as we move forward.
Oh, for sure. And then I know you mentioned about little mistakes and stuff like that, but overall as a defensive performance, it was a standout performance on the defensive side of things. I mean, you guys limited the number 10th ranked offense in the country, and obviously the Cougars quarterback, he's a stat machine, leading the FBS in so many categories though, and he based on our research had one of the worst performances of his career so far this past season, and that was due to your guys' good defensive performance. But I also abide by that whole rule which exists, which is the best defense is a good offense, though. But do you ever feel at times that with the defense's production, with the offense making mistakes like that, Dean Clark picked it off, but the offense giving them the ball right back, a couple of plays later, do you ever feel that lack of, taking a breather on the sideline with the offense, goes 3 and out, could also affect the defense's performance, and how do you expect to improve that going forward?
When you play defense, we talk about it all the time. It's a firefighter's mentality. You have to put the fire out wherever it is, and we just play defense when we're called upon. Go out there, and our job is to stop them. So that has no effect on us. I mean, we just got to play and got to be strong-willed and take the field. And whenever we take the field, our job is to get a stop.
Coach, the penalties that you referred to as unacceptable, they were impactful, especially the one toward the end of the first half that turned you guys getting the ball back into them having a first down and running out the clock.
Right.
How do you get rid of that? Because, I mean, it's a judgment call, right? It may be called one game, not another. How do you make sure it's never even close to that line?
Well, I think we've done a very good job, to be honest with you. That's what makes it so frustrating, talking about penalties, showing examples of it throughout training camp, throughout the season even, making them aware of what's going to be called. We are notified each week by the officials about what's trending, so to speak, in terms of what their emphasis is going to be. A lot of it nowadays has to do with taunting, with the simulated gun shooting stuff that's had gone on in the NFL and even in college, and now it's an automatic penalty for that type of stuff, and justifiably so. But we hit it again. I'm really disappointed in the fact that we had those because that's not the style that we play, and that's guys that have got to understand how it's impactful to the team. And we made it very, very clear yesterday in the team meeting. Coach Skipper did. Then we had the defense in here after that, and we addressed it very, very clearly again. And I hope that we won't have to talk about it again moving forward.
And you talked about Nevada's run game, the quarterback run game, and also the conventional run game. And Savion Red had an incredible game against Oregon State. You've game planned a lot of running backs in college and the NFL. Is there somebody he reminds you of, or a way you can put his game, his ability in perspective for us?
I don't know if there's one guy, but what I'm seeing He's got really good vision, and he makes a lot of subtle moves in the hole. He's a good cutback runner when you tend to over pursue, and they get you flowing. He can put his foot in the ground and cut back, and he's got strength. He's not a little back. He's a big back. He's like 215 pounds, I believe. So, I can't really pinpoint one guy that he reminds me of, but he's a very, very effective runner. I think he's averaging 6.9 per yard per carry, and the quarterback's averaging 5.8. So between the two of them last week, the team rushed for 353 yards. That's an incredible number. But really, on the average per game between the two of them, they're over 150 yards when you combine their rushing yards in each game. So they've done a good job of playing to their strength as an offense, and their O-line works well together. So it's going to be a very, very tough, hard-fought game in the trenches this week.
And last thing, I know it's, you can't quantify it like you can with stats, but do you see a difference in the edge with which Nevada plays under the new coach, Jeff Choate?
I see a team that has really, with the exception of the Minnesota game, and I think that game kind of was one of those games that just they struggled to get things going somewhat, but then they also turned the ball over a little bit in that game, which I think led to the score being what it was. But they've literally been in every game, and their losses of 3 points, 4 points, they're 5 points in one game. So this team, as with the record of 3-4, could easily be 5-2, 6-1, and it's less than a touchdown per game that they've lost. So I see a team that fights right to the end, that's competing really, really hard, like Coach Skipper said, and they've got a lot of new guys, as I mentioned earlier. And sometimes you see those types of teams not come together early on, but this team's different. This team seems like they're playing together. There's a lot of confidence, and it shows in their emotion and their enthusiasm on the field. Thank you.
Well, Coach, what would you say your biggest takeaways from Saturday were for the offensive side of the ball?
First and foremost, we got to take care of the football. That ends up being, ultimately the deciding factor. One play didn't decide the game, but it ended up being the deciding factor, at the end of the day. And that's the tough part about it, is that you look at whether it's missed opportunities, and there's a bunch of positives too. And first and foremost, we got to take care of the ball. Second thing is we just got to execute in the red zone. If we do that, and the disappointing part about that was that there was stuff that was there that we just missed on, and whether it was we ran a speed option, and one guy doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and it ends up being the guy that's supposed to be blocked, ends up making the tackle. Just little things like that. But at the end of the day, like I've got to put our guys in position to be successful, and we got to be better in the red zone. So really, ultimately, it's taking care of the football and be better in the red zone. In particular, scoring touchdowns, because Dylan Lynch shouldn't be put in the position to kick field goals all the time if we do what we want to do.
I think the two situations that the fans reacted to the most vocally were the end of the first half. I guess they wanted to run some plays, and then fourth quarter, backed up against your own goal line, running the ball on 3rd and 6. You want to just walk through the thought process there so maybe fans understand what you were thinking?
Yeah, well, the end of the first half, we threw the interception when we had the ball. We pop a big run, and then we throw the interception. And, there was really, it's just one of those things where there wasn't a ton of time on the clock at the end of that first half when we got the interception. So let's just get to halftime. Like, at this point, and I would say that interception probably, really kind of led to that feeling just from a programmatic standpoint. Let's get to halftime right now. We're in a good spot. We're getting the ball back. Let's go ahead and regroup. And I've said this before. I'm gonna stay up at night thinking about calls, whether we win or lose. Like, I just do. And the 3rd down backed up. There was an RPO on it, so there was the opportunity to kind of make it right both ways. We were running the ball relatively effectively in the game, and if I could take a call back, I would love to say I'd take that one back. I just felt like that just gave us the best opportunity to kind of have the option to do both. And the disappointing part about the backed up thing was, we got the first down out of there, but we got a pre-snap penalty, and and then again, if I could take a call back, it'd be that one. If I'm being honest, but at the same time, I just felt like what gave us the best opportunity was to call the RPO there and be able to have the option of both, given the circumstances.
And, Josiah worked so hard to get healthy and get on the field this year. He makes a big play, 34-yard touchdown, and now he's going to be out for a while. How hard is that for you when you see a player go through that emotionally?
Yeah, I mean, without the players, there's no us. Like, that's the thing that I think is so important, is that without the players, there's no need for a coach, And so, you see a guy that has put so much into it, really since he got here. He's like, football is extremely important to him, and he's one of the best human beings on the team. He's just one of those guys that you just root for anyways, and he's obviously, superior talent-wise. So it sucks to see any player get hurt. It's disappointing to see any player get hurt. And then, when it's a guy like that that's put in so much time and he's such a good dude, and it's disappointing. It obviously impacts the team in a major way because of his talent, but on a personal level, it's disappointing because he's such a great person.
Hey there, Coach. This is the second game against a good team that were a interception turned the tide of the game. Obviously against Michigan, you guys were marching down. Keene throws an interception, takes it all the way to house, and then with Washington State, you guys were marching down to extend the lead, and an interception from him, for all intents and purposes, costed the team the game. Going forward, as of right now, Keene right now is 3rd amongst FBS in terms of interceptions. Going forward, in terms of how to handle the offensive production going forward, will there be changes made to the offense in terms of quarterback competition, personnel changes, or expanding the playbook in terms of sealing the deal against bigger teams like that and the other teams for the rest of the season?
Yeah, that's a fair question. There's certain things where we've talked about some of them where it's not necessarily always on the quarterback, and then sometimes it's directly on the quarterback, and sometimes it's on me as the play caller, or that's just any play caller. Sometimes it's like you got to put guys in better positions. I would say that first and foremost is that nobody is being harder on themselves about it than Mikey, and I play back. Like, we were 2nd and 13 on the one that ended up costing us at the end. We were 2nd and 13, and we were in a better position. We were going to run the ball, and and we get a false start, and so then we're 2nd and 13, and I think one of the things that is tough is that we throw the interception on a play that's kind of a base play that you've watched Mikey progress through 100 times, and he just happened to not that time, and it ended up being the end result that we got. We can do some things to help him. I think one of the things that is, and he wasn't affected on that one, but he's probably getting hit too much, just in general. Which I think that ultimately, anybody in here, you get hit a bunch, it's going to affect how you play. So we've got to do some things to take some hits off of him. I think that ultimately will help him settle down and be a little more confident there in the pocket. Because he has a great grasp of things, and the thing that, again, people don't necessarily notice. I mean, there's multiple times this year we have multiple explosive touchdowns. People don't realize it. He actually alerted Josiah Freeman because he saw a specific thing in the coverage. That wasn't the route was a called route with the possibility of an alert. He made the alert. Did the same thing against New Mexico State to Magdalena. So there's certain things that he does at such a high level that creates things for the offense. And then, there's also some times where, some things end up really negatively affecting us, and we've got to clean those up. And we got to, as coaches, put him in some positions. We got to help him with some stuff. But I think a big thing is we got to take hits off of him.
For sure. And the running game, showed out. I mean, right now, Gilliam and Donaldson are showing that they make a good tandem, obviously, with, Sherrod's absence, the last only couple of weeks, and it might seem like that going forward. Gilliam had himself his first, 100-yard rushing game of the season and stuff like that. Having talked to you and the offensive personnel, throughout the season so far, there's been talks about using the running game to open up the passing game. But after the effectiveness of the running game this past week, obviously – your competition, they know what, Delana, your wide receiving corps, could do. They know about that. And obviously Malik Sherrod, the tail of the tape, obviously he was the playmaker going into the season. He's been limited. But do you think that the surprise could be on Gilliam and Donaldson's shoulders to, bring more presence to the running game, and that could be a key factor in adding to the explosiveness going forward to Nevada and the rest of the season?
Yeah, we sat down during the bye week and we looked at, we've got to run the ball better, and I said it last week too. We ran the ball effectively against New Mexico State, and that was really kind of the only time all year that we have. So I don't want to say like, hey, we got it figured out off of one game, but I do think that we did some things that kind of lent to the skill set of the guys that were playing in the backfield, and it was really cool to see Elijah Gilliam step up. I mean, he was kind of the hot hand, and I would have expected to see Bryson a little bit more. Honestly, I think he had 2 carries and a catch or 2. We probably would have played him more, but Elijah was running really well, and so you kind of played to the hot hand at that point. It wasn't anything Bryson did, but it was really encouraging to see that. I felt like they ran hard. They ran downhill, which was a big thing. It was kind of a big emphasis going into that game, was a little more downhill run game, and so it was encouraging. And the biggest thing is we've got to stop kicking the can down the road. We got to put it all together. Like, we ran the ball well, and then, obviously made a few costly, turnovers in the pass game. There's games where we've passed the ball well and we haven't been able to run the ball. Like, we got to stop kicking the can down the road and put it all together.
And this past game and everything else, there have been some, players in certain positions that have kind of been silent lately, haven't really heard much from, Cameron Bill Beecham, and, haven't really gone to, the tight end core in general, or, I think, Tim Greer was back and everything else. So going forward, are you going to be able to expand on their roles and the tight end position going forward to help expand the offense?
Yeah, I mean, we got a really good group of tight ends. We do. They had a couple opportunities the other night that I think we probably could left some yards on the field on some of those, when they did get involved. But it's a good group of tight ends, and we like them. But, we've got a lot of depth at receiver, and like you said, Tim Greer's back. And, ultimately I think that it's one of those things where, the more bodies that we bring into the formation, the more bodies that the defense brings in, and we haven't necessarily been effectively running the ball, so that hasn't been to our advantage to necessarily pack the box like that. But they are good players, and it's something that we got to make sure that, we don't become one-dimensional in our pass game either. We got to make sure we're utilizing all our personnel.
Hey, Coach, does anything change in preparation this week for Mikey to make sure he's seeing all these different type of situations, and even if, sometimes he doesn't see a corner over there, he can at least anticipate somebody's probably over there waiting for the ball?
Yeah, I think that, I think the thing that we do a good job of practicing is that we do a lot of stuff with our defense, where we see a lot of different looks. So we get the scout team looks, but there's only so many reps to go around, and so we do some good on good stuff with our defense, and so we get a variety of looks. I think the main point of preparation is probably just making sure that, and especially on a short week, it becomes even a little more difficult, but just making sure, just probably cycling through, kind of some of the base plays versus some different looks, some stuff that, you spend so much time on, the game plan stuff that, making sure, because again, both interceptions were thrown on plays that, we've repped a million times, and so just making sure, just giving them, a variety of looks. And but I wouldn't say necessarily anything changes. I just think that just kind of applying a little more pressure as far as just understanding that, we're going to get a variety of looks, especially our ability to throw the ball. We're going to get different looks in the pass game than maybe we see on film all the time.
What are you seeing from this Nevada defense and specifically the secondary?
Well, I know that Coach Skipper and Coach Coyle both mentioned just as far as kind of the effort they play with. I think that that's something that you see 11 guys on defense playing really hard. In the secondary, they've got it's a very experienced, it's an older group in the secondary, and so you can tell that they just have a understanding of what they do schematically and maybe what the challenges are, if they're in a certain coverage, what's the things that are tough, on them, and they have, good answers for that. You can see them playing certain routes really well because they know that those routes are challenging, so, they make sure that they try to take those away. So you can just tell that they're an experienced group on the back end for sure.
How different do those looks compare to last year against this team?
It's kind of there's only so many coverages and so many things that you can do on defense, but these guys, the main thing I would just say is these guys it's very sound. They are schematically very sound, and the players, I think, play the scheme well. You can tell that they, they do a good job kind of communicating. They do a good job aligning into stuff. You give them a new formation, they kind of know how to align to it, just because they're very, in my opinion, they're really well coached, and they play the system really well. So it's similar, but it's new just because it's, we see some of the same coverages from our defense, but they play it slightly different. So it's kind of the same thing. It's similar conceptually, but it's definitely it's coached a little different.
Edward Fonua got his first start. Did he have a direct impact on that running performance, or is that position up for grabs again this week, or how did he do?
Yeah, Eddie was probably the starter. If you would have said, back at the beginning of spring ball last year, in this past spring, you probably would have said Eddie was going to be the starter. He played in the UNLV game, and it was his first action of really playing FBS football, and it was moving fast, and UNLV was doing some things that was schematically tough on the guys up front. And so, it was cool to kind of see him settle in, just, the bye week, having 2 weeks of going against our defense and getting fast looks from our defense. So that was encouraging, and he did. He's a big, strong, powerful, athletic dude. I think that he's definitely an impact in the run game for sure.
I think what's lost maybe from last game was the first drive and how Mikey played in the first drive. How do you kind of bottle that up with his 7 for 8 and leading that start and continuing to build momentum from that, because it felt like it was kind of his best drive of the season?
Yeah, I think we ran, and I'll kind of expand on that, outside of, stalling out in the red zone, I think we were 24 plays, I think is what we actually ran without penalties and stuff like that. I think it was 24 plays for 100 and whatever. We were averaging almost 7 yards a play. And Mikey was playing, in my opinion, lights out for most of the first half. There was times where, the pressure got to him, but he was playing really well overall in the first half, really until the first interception. If you take off the hits on him in the first half, he's playing really well. And, he had to scramble and he got the intentional grounding, but that should never have happened. So ultimately, it's just a matter of, trying to find ways that when he does get kind of off track a little bit, just getting him back in a rhythm and stuff like that. That's where I think that, going back to the question earlier about, doing some things in the pass game, just making sure finding ways to get him kind of reestablished and get him going again, because when you get him in a rhythm, he's pretty dang good.
How's Jalen doing after this game? Because it seemed like a really frustrating one, especially with the drop and then the kick return where he fell. How's he doing after this game and getting him back in a rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that he felt personally responsible, you know, I think he felt personally responsible for the end of the game, you know, and that's not necessarily fair either, because, you know, technically that ball should have been a touchback technically, by definition. And, you know, I mean, it is disappointing that's, you know, like that's the reality of where we started that drive. You know, and, you know, we talk a lot about making sure that, you know, you can't let a loss beat you you can't let a team beat you twice, but same thing, you can't let a play beat you twice, you know. And I think that in his situation, I think the kick return led to the drop on the 2-minute drive, you know. So he'll bounce back. He's a really resilient kid. Like, that's the thing that, you know, I think Jalen Moss doesn't let stuff beat him twice very often, and he let that one in that case, you know. But he's really resilient, and I would anticipate him bouncing back pretty good. Thank you.